Hi, today we will talk about the middleware technology and its evolution. In this presentation, we will conduct a review on three popular middlewares, which are COBA, Java RMI, and web services. So, what is middleware? In the layer architecture of a system, middleware is the software layer between the application layers and its underlying platforms, including the operating system, networks, hardware, and programming languages. In a distributed system, middlewares enable applications to interact and communicate with each other even with even if their underlying platforms are different. This is done by provide the programming abstraction and therefore mask the heterogeneity of these underlying platforms, including the operating system, hardware, network, and the languages used. Other issues including the flexibility, security, portability, connectivity, intercommunication, and the mechanism to interoperate are also taken care by the middleware. So middleware can be said as an very essential part of the information system nowadays, which has been very much distributed. So how the middleware is evolved across the time? It's driven by the requirements and architecture designs of the prevalent distributed information system at that time. So we will talk about different kinds of information system. Here, the one type system, two type, three type, n type. And by type we mean layer. So one type system is a distributed information system that has only one layer, two type has two layers, three type has three layers, and so on. Here is the overview of how the middleware evolved across the time. Here is the prevalent architectural design at that era and the middleware used. In 1970s, the one-tier information system emerged, and the client and server are separated, where little development are done at the client side. So the middleware line here, the gray arrow, and the prevalent middleware is the transaction processing monitor, which monitor the interaction between the client and the server and take action if required. In the next decades, 1980s, the prevalent, the architecture design that two types is emerged, and the presentation layer is much tied to the client side, separated from the application. The middleware lie here, and one of the most important middleware ever that's removed for this procedural called RPC is emerged, and the message is sent between the two layers ties, and is categorized as the message-oriented middlewares (MOM). In 1990s, the application layers is separated from the resource layer, creating a three-tier architecture, and it's emerged of the ORB, Object Request Broker middlewares, and one of it is the COBA that we will be reviewing later. And start from 200s, while the web is gaining popularity, complexity of presentation layer is increases, and client use a browser to access the internet resources, and the middleware at this time is enterprise application interaction and the web services that we will be discussed. The first middleware that we will discuss is Common Object Request Local Architecture (COBA). It is an open standard defined by OMG, the Object Management Group, and people argue that it's the most important middleware project that ever undertaken by the industry. It is an object bus to enabling method invocation on the removed object as it was the object of the local. The first version of COBA was released in October 1991, which before I was born, and therefore it is an old player in the middleware market. COBA is a very extensible and flexible integration technology and therefore being employed in a wide range of applications, including in the aerospace, bank, manufacturing, research, uh, telecommunication, and much more. This is the architecture of COBA. The ORB is the most important and the integrated part of the COBA, which enables the client and the server to communicate. While the object interface, that is the method that can be accessed by the other object, is defined by the IDL, the interface definition languages, at the both client side and the server side. And the method defined by the interface are similar to the normal function of the programming languages. It can accept the parameter input and return values as well as write exception. Now we talk about the Java remove method invocation, Java RMI. The terms RMI generically refer to the object-oriented equivalent of the RPC, which an object in an object-oriented programming, an object can invoke the method of another object, while the RMI extends this to the distributed system, where the object might be located at different locations. For the case of Java RMI, a Java object can invoke the methods of other objects even if the object is at another JVM, Java Virtual Machine. The client do not need to know where is the physical location of this object, and through the Java RMI, it can access this method here. But here something need to be clarified. Java RMI refer to the Java version of RMI, while the the concept of RMI can be implemented at other languages. And one of the examples that used this concept was the COBA that we were talking about. Now we talk about web services. Web services is an emerging middleware that is a standard to integrate the web-based application. It utilizes the web open standard, including the HTTP and XML as its basic. Web services refer to the interface of application, while GUI such as web pages and executive program can be added to this application to offer additional functionality. The web services use the protocol called SOAP, and this the architecture. The client receive a request for a service and it need to discover it through the WSDL, which is the acronym for the Web Service Description Languages from the registry called Universal Description, Discovery and Integration (UDDI), while the service provider need to publish its service to the UDDL, where the WSDL include the description of the services, um, location, and how it can be accessed. Web services is now very much very used on the web for those current web applications. Now we talk about the differences between these three middlewares. First of all, the data model. COBOL and Java RMI are object-oriented middleware. It enables the invocation of methods that operation on the removed object, just identical to the calling of the local object, while the web services is a message-oriented middleware. It uses the exchange of message to interact between the application. So sometimes people argue that these two different categories of the middleware cannot be compared. Now we compare the coupling between the server and client. COBOL and Java RMI are very tightly coupled, which means they need to have the same interface shared between the client and the server side. A slot is at the client side and a corresponding skeleton at the server side, while the web services are loosely coupled and messages are asynchronous, which means any message that's sent do not necessarily give the immediate access to the next step. COBOL supports a wide range of languages as long as they are mapping to the IDL implemented in that language. For example, the C, C++, Java, Ada, Perl, Perl, and COBOL, while the Java RMI is the Java version of RMI. But generic RMI is also found and has been implemented in some other languages. Web services use XML to exchange the message. So most software can recognize this and XML, so theoretically it supports any language. Well, while the function of the middleware is to provide location transparency, these three middlewares do it at different methods. COBOL provides the object reference by the naming service of common object service or get the reference through the inter-ORB protocol. Well, Java RMI has the object reference in the registry. Web services, like what we do on the web, we access the resource through the URI or URL, and the services can be looked up and published into the UDDI like we just mentioned in the previous slide. Finally, here's some prediction of author on the future of middlewares. First of all, there must be some improvement of the COBOL mapping in languages such as C and C++, which currently has some design issue. Then the RMI is gonna be supported by more languages instead of currently the Java. While the gaining of the popularity of the web services as the standard will stay and be intensively used by the web-based application, and therefore the object-oriented middlewares, for example the COBOL that we have mentioned, have to be integrated with the message-oriented middleware like the web services. And the emerge of Internet of Things is require a new and genetic middlewares to support. In conclusion, each middleware has its own unique features, pros and cons, and therefore it's hard and irrational to say any middleware is better than the others in all aspects. In the future, middleware will continue to evolve and advance in support our distributed information system and computing technologies. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.